Well, hey folks, Real Honesty with Jar Midlands, my review of the 5 episodes from May of 1993 of Monday Night Raw, 25-year reflection. I apologize for not getting to this sooner. Unfortunately, after the month of March, I started to run into a whole lot of work and a whole lot of other shows, so my time is limited and I'm just getting to these when I can. So I'm hopefully going to be able to do these throughout the rest of the year. 1994 I may do next year, 95 I may do in 2020, provided I keep doing YouTube videos, of course. After that, I don't know if I'm going to be doing many of these, but hey, it'll be nice to reflect on some of these. Or I may just do select episodes from 96 on, depending on how many years I'm on YouTube or whatever streaming service I do. So anyway, pretty good episodes here. I mean, there was usually like one pretty good match per show, which started to kind of become the norm for the hour-long episodes of Raw since cut down, when you cut out the commercials and everything, they were only like 46, 47 minutes at the most. So let's just get cracking on with these. You had the May 3rd edition. Vince, Heenan, and Savage were all on commentary for all these. Thankfully, I think they gotten rid of Rob Bartlett by this point, or if he was on at all, it was very limited, and that's good because he may have been good at his job. I believe he was a radio host, but he just wasn't cut out to do commentary. He just wasn't. I didn't hate the guy like as a person. I did hate how he was as an announcer because he wasn't very good. But you had Shawn Michaels versus Jim Duggan IC title match, and it being a count out. There was lots of stalling in the beginning. It was a decent match. Shawn grounded Duggan. Duggan used power. There's a brawl outside. I believe Duggan sent Michaels over the guardrail into the crowd. Like the few rows that they had in the Manhattan Center. It ended up being a count out. Duggan did a promo where he was like, no, the match should not end like this, even though Duggan was the idiot that dumped Michaels out there, so it ended up being a count out. So Duggan really has nobody to blame but himself. And he does a sit-down protest when he leaves eventually, and he's going to call Jack Tunney. And all through every single one of these episodes, since it was between Mania and King of the Ring, since they were finally making King of the Ring a full-fledged pay-per-view, it was the first one that would run from 93 to about 2002, I believe, was the last pay-per-view, and then they would have an 06, 2010, I believe, 06, 08, 2010, and 2015 King of the Ring, and then after that, they pretty much dropped it. I'd say bring it back as a pay-per-view. Bring it back as a network special. But anyway. So yeah, King of the Ring report by Mean Gene. The Duggan-Michaels match was decent enough, though Duggan really looked like an idiot for being the one. He's protesting the Michaels got counted out, yet he was the one that pretty much made it so he would get counted out. And then a couple squash matches. Doink versus the Kamikaze Kid that would become the 1-2-3 Kid in a couple weeks. So Doink won that, obviously. Bob Backlund defeated Dwayne Gill when Dwayne Gill had hair. A Duggan promo, he talks about a lumberjack match that he's going to have with Shawn Michaels next week. Cool for the IC title. Good stuff, good way to hype it. Smoking Guns vignette. They did a couple of them, and then they finally had them debut a couple weeks after this. You had Captain Lou Albano on commentary. This is when it ended up being 4 people on commentary. So you had Captain Lou taking over everything. And it was Vince, Savage, and then Heenan. And it was too much. 4 people on commentary. Like a 3-man commentary team at this time, I thought Vince, Heenan, and Savage had a good dynamic. Even if I admit Savage may have not been the best on commentary, he was a hell of a talker. Heenan and him played off of each other really well. And you had the Head Shrinkers versus 2 Jobbers. It was a squash. It also went too long. Squash should have taken maybe 2-3 minutes. That should have been it. They should have eaten these jobbers alive and done it quick. And then Kamala versus Jobber was a squash. Then he had a Shawn Michaels interview hyping up the lumberjack match to close the show. Not a bad match, and at least the opening match set the tone for what would happen next week. So the May 10th episode, Shawn and Mr. This is one where Shawn and Mr. Perfect battled outside of the Manhattan Center, and Mr. Perfect sent Michaels through the windshield. Well, hitting the windshield with his feet. Hitting a car like on the sidewalk, and it actually ended up being, I believe, it was either Howard Finkel's actual car or a rental car. I'm not exactly sure. Good opener, good way to set the tone for the main event. You had Man Bam Bigelow versus Typhoon. It was a King of the Ring qualifier match, and I think this was Typhoon's last match in WWE until he came back, I believe, early in '94. And that was because he was going to go shock the world in WCW when he became the Shockmaster. And I will do a 25-year reflection on that Clash of Champions particularly. So yeah, my Clash of Champions reviews may be a little bit out of sync since I'm planning on just reviewing them and not even doing 25-year reflections on some of them. So we'll see what happens. But Yeah, that was a fun that was a fun botch and everything. But Bam Bam beat Typhoon pretty easily. I think it was like 5 minutes. Smoking Guns vignette, another one. Yokozuna defeated PJ Walker, who would go on to have a career that was just incredible. Yeah, it's just incredible. Also, Aldo Montoya, who I believe Mr. Perfect said at one point he's got his jock on the wrong part of his body when, he had the face mask and everything. Pretty ridiculous, but, just incredible. Really good worker. Yokozuna won easily. Mr. Perfect versus Iron Mike Sharp. This was near the end of Mike Sharp's career, I believe. I mean, I think he was maybe with the company a little bit longer, was used as an enhancement talent essentially, and then, was released. Or maybe asked to be released. But Mr. Perfect beat him pretty quickly. Mr. Hughes versus the Kid, beat him pretty quickly. I never cared for Mr. Hughes, but I give him credit for wrestling in dress clothes. That must have been really tough. And then Jim Duggan versus Shawn Michaels, IC title lumberjack match. This was a mess. You had various people out there. Like Duggan attacked Yokozuna in the beginning because Duggan had his ribs busted, by Yoko a few months before. Like leading up to the whole thing with Mania, with Yoko and Brett. And it was a decent match. You had Shawn faking an injury like he was on crutches after the whole attack that happened. Miss Perfect hit him a bit, threw him in the ring, and then Shawn's jumping up and down like he's all angry and everything. But wait a second, there's nothing wrong with his knee. So he ends up wrestling in basically street clothes and goofy cowboy boots. Easy for me to say. Cowboy boots would have been different. Cowboy boots, be careful when you Google that, by the way. Don't ask. But it was fine. It was fine. Shawn Michaels ended up winning, even though it was by, goofy shenanigans. Are there any other kind? And that closed the show, whatever. Was what it was. And then the May 17th, 1993 edition, one of the best episodes of Raw, actually, at least for two notable moments. For the hour-long editions, this might have been one of the best ones of 93, like at least top 5. Because it did start off with the Smoking Guns versus Jobbers. They beat him pretty easily. And then you had Shawn Michaels in the ring doing an interview with Vince and like saying, I will defend this title against, and it's like at any time, anywhere, against anyone. Somebody comes through the crowds, got a hooded jacket on. Got a hood over their head. They have sunglasses on. Suddenly take all that stuff off. It's Mario Jannetty, the man who tried to dive through the window to escape. One of Keenan's finest moments. Jannetty tried to dive through the window to escape. Did you see that? What an act of cowardice. Just great stuff. So Marty cuts a brief promo. Oh, you said you would face anybody. Vince is like, yeah, you said you would face anybody. So Marty has his gear. We have a match set for later that night for the IC title. And then the Kid versus Razor Ramon, the biggest shock win, I think, of 1993. At least on WWF TV. WWE TV now. But, yeah, Razor beat him up, and then did a post spot. Razor was stunned. Moonsault by the Kid. Knee catches Razor in the face. 1, 2, 3. Crowd's elated. Kid's elated, shocked. Razor's upset. Selling the whole thing perfectly. Perfect way to do this match. Absolutely wonderful. Great stuff. Honestly, one of my favorite moments in Raw history. It has to be up there. It's some of the best moments of Raw history. And yeah, it may have happened 25 years ago, but still really good stuff. And then we had Tatanka versus Scott Taylor. Whatever. It was what it was. The layer Sky too hottie. Tatanka beat him pretty easily. Kamala versus Yokozuna, pretty much a squash. I think Kamala got a few shots in. That was about it. Yoko pretty much dominated him, beat him. This is when Kamala was just used basically as a jobber. He was put into WCW. I want to say he was with WWE for about another year after this. But then he was in WCW. I know he was in WCW to be part of the Dungeon of Doom. That was a great stable, wasn't it? And then you had Shawn versus Marty for the IC title. Good match. It was, a lot of people say, oh, it's like a classic. It went on a while. It only went on like 9 minutes. Like 9 minutes, 15 seconds maybe. But good stuff. They worked well together. This was pretty much Marty's apex of his career, like singles career. Miss Perfect did interfere at one point while Shawn was trying to get at Miss Perfect or taunting him and everything. Miss Perfect threw his towel at him and Marty got a roll up 1, 2, 3. Marty is a new IC champion. He would hold it for all of a month. He was supposed to hold it till SummerSlam, but he had legal trouble, as he does. And he would continue to have legal trouble. He was his own worst enemy. He's one of the examples of he was his own worst enemy. But still, he got the big moment here. He became IC champion, would hold it for about a month, drop it at a house show. No complaints, though. Very fun episode and 2 great moments. Actually, 3 great moments if you include the fact that Marty May is returning, and then you have the match, and then you have Kid beating Razor. Then we move on to the May 24th edition. Doink, Doink squirting Lord Alfred Hayes in public in New York. Have fun unseeing that. But this was taking place after we saw Doink go underneath the ring for a match he was going to have. But then we shoot, back out to the outside, and Doink's out there with Lord Alfred Hayes. Oh, it's an illusion. Yeah, Doink versus Mr. Perfect in the King of the Ring qualifying match. Gem here, very good. A lot of people forget that Matt Borne was a really, really good worker despite the Doink gimmick, despite the goofiness. He made that gimmick his own. Did really well. Good stuff. It really seemed like Doink was actually going to win. And I think it's in June or July. But there's a 2 out of 3 falls match between Mario Jannetty and Doink that was really, really good, that took place on an episode of Raw. At least I believe it was in 93. I do remember seeing it when WWE released like a best of 93, 94 set. Like, I think it was like a 4 DVD set of Monday Night Raw. And I remember seeing that. It was Jannetty versus Doink, so I believe it was in 93. So I'll get to that whenever, if it's next month or if it's in July. Whenever, I will get to it. But Doink and Mr. Perfect had a really good match here. And despite the fact you had the second Doink come out from under the ring while, the other one fell to the outside. So fresh painted Doink, and the referee doesn't even bother to think, hey, wait a second, that guy's face paint is different. Well, Mr. Perfect beats him anyway. 1, 2, 3 with the Perfect Plex. Good stuff. The Doinks beat him up afterwards, and then Crush runs down. That was good. It was good. It was good stuff. It was really, really good stuff. At least I believe Crush ran down. I lost track of a couple things here, and I didn't write everything down on my notes. But I know it was really cool and a really good way of how the double Doink thing finally backfired. And then Money Inc. did a shoe shine thing where they, Teddy DiBiase paid a kid to come and shine his shoes. Instead of paying him $100, he paid him like $30, $40. So he shafted him. But hey, at least he paid him. So was that Money Inc. versus 2 jobbers? It was what it was. Crush versus Bobby Who. Terrible New Day impression. Beat him easily. Then Razor Promo. He's talking about the fact nobody makes a fool out of Razor Ramon. He offers up, I believe, $2,500, and then I think Lair upped it. I think they upped it to like $10,000 because the kid refused to face him. He didn't want to face him again. So Bret Hart comes out and says, well, hey, how can you beat me at the King of the Ring tournament if you can't even beat the kid? Starts a 1, 2, 3 chant, and that would haunt Razor for a while. And then Adam Bomb with Johnny Polo versus Phil Apollo. Polo Apollo. Or Apollo Polo. But anyway, Adam Bomb wins easily. Not the best gimmick. Ryan Clark is a much better worker than this gimmick indicated. Good enough episode, especially for the Mr. Perfect Doink match. And then we go to the last day of May 31st, 1993. Hacksaw Jim Duggan with a dedicated promo to the troops. Really good stuff since it was on Memorial Day. Mario Jannetty with Sherry. Sherry, just damn. Good Lord. Versus Bam Bam with Luna. IC title match, it was decent. Ended up being a count out. It was a good match. It was a well-worked match. One of the shining spots of Mario Jannetty's brief title reign. It was a count out and Bam Bam lost. Sherry had distracted him earlier by grabbing his foot because she wanted to save Marty. Sherry then challenges Luna. So Marty had won by count out. Sherry challenged Luna. They came out, had a brief fight. Bam Bam came out and grabbed Sherry's arms from behind, and Luna's hitting at her, and then Tatanka comes out, chases off Bam Bam, chops him a bit, and then is trying to save Sherry. So good enough stuff. Good opener. The Steiners versus Rich Myers and the Executioner. Boy, that Steiner screwdriver that Scott Steiner hit was vicious. I mean, just boom, just drove him down, and it was vicious. Good Lord. But the Steiners win. Of course they're going to win over 2 jobbers. Mr. Hughes versus Bert Santino, I believe, is what I wrote down. Never liked Mr. Hughes. Again, sorry, just didn't. But he beat him. He beat a jobber. It took way too long. Should have taken like a minute and a half, and it was like 3 minutes. Did I just hear myself say 3 minutes? I love that. I love that gimmick, by the way. Jim Duggan versus Mark Thomas. Mark Thomas at least had a good physique compared to some of the jobbers. So at least he looked like he could have been something in wrestling later. Duggan beats him. Duggan does Pledge of Allegiance afterwards. 1, 2, 3 Kid promo. He was really, I don't want to say confused, but he was just like, nervous and stuff like that, which I don't blame him. He was on national TV after wrestling Jerry Lynn in GWF, I believe. I believe that's what it was. If I remember right, because I think they had like a pretty good 2 out of 3 falls match that I remember seeing on the network. But you then had, so he was nervous, but he was like, oh, I can't accept the challenge. The Razor Ramon is laying down. I just don't want to do it. Pretty much after consulting his grandparents, I believe. But of course, he would end up facing him later and become a pretty good character in WWE and in WCW. And then again in WWE when he became X-Pac. Razor versus Tony Roy, the most Canadian-looking jobber talent that I've seen in a while, at least from these '90s, shows. Nothing wrong with that. It's just the mullet, the name, the goofiness. I mean, and he wasn't very goofy, but he was presented as goofy on TV, and that's not knocking anybody as a Canadian talent. But when I saw Tony Roy, I'm just like, I just got like '80s Canadian heavy metal from him. Crowd's doing 1, 2, 3 chants at the cheering of Savage. Razor wins, and they continue to build up the whole thing with the 1, 2, 3 kid, and then Mr. Fuji, Yokozuna Promo. Oh, Yoko's going to beat Hogan in 2 weeks at the King of the Ring. Well, 13 days at the King of the Ring. And then they're waving the Japanese flag while Duggan's in the balcony seats at the Manhattan Center waving the Japanese flag, and we go off the air. Good set of shows here with at least one match, worth checking out from either of them, from any of them. And especially that May 17th episode was really, really good. So yeah, I would recommend checking the May episodes out, especially if you want to see some, some good nostalgia. Anyway, do you agree, disagree with what I said? Like, share, comment, subscribe. Twitter link in the description. Spend real honesty with John Ritlin, my raw reflection reviews, and I will see you soon.